Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Lust and Mike Kravchenko back again. So, Mike, every once in a while, I give our listeners a bet. And what am I kidding? Not every once in a while. Basically, every episode we do it. This one, Mike, hit in a very glorious way. So last time we did the podcast, we did this whole thing about Miami, the social media intern tweeting this. Was it a real video, fake video? And I said, listen, if they're going to announce the video and the team press conference on July 27th, obviously LeBron is going to announce that he's going to go to the team before the 27th, the 25th, the 26th, even the 24th. Why not? Mike, we won the bet, but not having anything to do with the Miami bet because he did announce it before the 27th, but he announced that he was going to the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Mike, I'm going to talk about LeBron briefly. I just want to point out our wins. Sometimes we win for the wrong reasons, but a win is a win, Mike. We will celebrate them. Talk about LeBron a little bit, just close the chapter on a conversation we had about market manipulation. The WNBA is back again. It's a logical follow-up, the fallout from the Sophie Cunningham stance on transgender athletes playing in women's sports. And then WNBA, speaking of betting scandals, sagas, we'll see if this one gets swept under the rug. Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese being involved in a very odd, we'll call it odd controversy. We'll talk about it. The kind of trilogy of criminal cases in the NFL, one involving Tony Romo, one involving 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan, and one involving Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator, not involving him, but Eric Bieniemy's family. We'll talk about that quickly. With that being said, Mike, those are the topics, maybe somewhat to watch for as we'll throw in at the end. Mike, were you surprised at LeBron's landing spot?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised at the landing spot, I think at that moment when I read the notification. But in the beginning of the offseason, I think, especially once Jaylen Brown went there, I figured it was one of the top landing spots. But the Miami thing, I don't know. I was very 50-50 on, just because I actually loved the fact that they put out a social media job posting after. So it's like, hey, maybe someone really did just slip up practicing or trying to mess with the back end. But yeah, I'm really not too surprised. I think they're going to be a good team. Joel Embiid, coming out, of course, talking in the media immediately. We'll see how many games he plays, and we'll see how the Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, Tyrese Maxey. It's a good team, I mean, honestly, but still Knicks in 5 until otherwise.
So I guess on the legal side, I was surprised too. In this day and age, in this information disclosure, the last live line I saw on the Sixers before the bet was announced was, I think, 9-1. So in this day and age, some type of bet that's solely dependent, clearly there's inside information on where he's going. But usually if there's, and I say inside information, LeBron is the inside information. Like it's not a performance-based bet where is this team going to win or lose? Will the over-under hit, right? It's something that just one person can snap their fingers and control. I was impressed that the line kind of stayed and held there in this kind of, on the Calcia of information-based bets. Usually a line starts, I think we talked about in the last podcast, why is the line moving to, towards, in that case, we were talking about Cleveland or Golden State. What was moving there other than inside information? And it turns out, I guess if it's wrong, it's not inside information. It's outside information masquerading itself as inside. So it was intrigued about that. The other part that was interesting, there were odds on who would make the announcement, be it LeBron and Clutch. I think Rich Paul is Clutch agency, for lack of a better term. Those guys were minus 200 and even money. And then Shams Charania was plus 400. So I guess, I don't know how many people are following this, but the NBA 2K series was announcing the cover athlete. They did this big countdown, 10, 9, every day they were doing this big elaborate marketing countdown. And right before the last day, Shams Charania just spoiled it. He's by the way, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, he's Mr. Scoop, and he's the one that has the LeBron announcement. So, I don't, and I'm not calling for some massive investigation. I'm just this world of information where bets are just one person and one person alone gets to dictate these odds, and it's someone's decision. I mean, we haven't had that all of the gambling controversies that we've talked about, and we'll talk about one momentarily, have been about some performance on the field. We haven't yet had one being rigged in terms of like a decision being made of where someone's signing, who's going to leak that information.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you saw. Did you see the other element of the McAfee ESPN now controversy with it? With that exact bet, McAfee made that bet on air because Shams basically called him and said, "You're going to want me on the show today." So at that point, apparently McAfee hammered like so much money on the decision happening today, even the Sixers plus 700. And now like Jeff Pearlman was the one that has been basically bringing this controversy forward. And everyone now is questioning, like, that's kind of suspect. Like ESPN is questionable as of, I mean, forever, but especially in the last number of years, the last months, the last couple of weeks. But that is
actually, I did not know that. That's pretty alarming.
Yeah, they're also basically, I mean, they're a gambling outlet now. Like, you know, they have, or ESPN, is it ESPN Bet? Is it, that's gone now, but like there's still so many partnerships. McAfee, such a large portion of his show is gambling. So it's the journalism and gambling mix is no good now. Like that, yeah, that's why insiders are, I don't know. It's questionable. There's going to be, it's a very legal gray area right now, but I think with a lot happening in the prediction market and sports gambling, you know, courts in general, we'll see what happens. But I'm very interested to see if anything does pursue or, you know, continue with the McAfee and Shams kind of insider trading almost.
Yeah, I mean, those, I saw those odds on, will it be announced on the 26th, 25th, 24th, 23rd? Also, as you got later in the day, if you had a bet on like, will there be an announcement by, I'm going to make a date, July 23rd, and it went from 9 to 10 to 11 to 12 to 1 to 2 to 3. As you got later in the day, those odds kept going up. And I think the announcement was made sometime around 12-ish, 11:30. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. We haven't talked about it. Just we'll do it briefly. McAfee, right, it signs this mega deal with ESPN. Mike, I'm sure you can pull it up as I'm getting into this. And he announces this deal. Mike, you tell me whenever you have it. Shout it out.
Oh, I got it. 60 to 65 per year. Annually, yes. That's
So this, you know, McAfee is a lightning rod. And I'm surprised that ESPN has tethered their ship to like a handful of big stars, right? Stephen A., McAfee. There's a handful of people. And I bring this up. I saw a really interesting debate and a friend of the show. Actually, I shouldn't say this, but I had a conversation with somebody that on the day, like obviously ESPN is paying a lot of money to McAfee and Stephen A. Smith, and they just laid off a ton of employees. And from like an agent's perspective, or let's say you're the lawyer for McAfee, right? Like, why are these layoffs happening, right? Like if you have $60 million that's going to one person, like that's probably causing you to have some layoffs over here. And if you're negotiating on behalf of someone, like, you know, there was like this whole movement, like McAfee should feel terrible. McAfee's a bad guy. He's causing all these people to lose their jobs. But if you're representing McAfee and you're representing talent in some way, shape, or form, like this is not like the representation business is. I don't want to say it's not because we'll talk about Jake Paul momentarily, but like it's not like utilitarian business where you need the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. Your job is to maximize your client's wealth. Everything else after that is secondary. Like, yeah, you can tell me like there's morals, like, and not necessarily morals clauses, but like there's ethics, and you don't want to like, you know. But if you have a company like ESPN that is making hundreds of millions, if not, you know, billions of dollars, like get that bag and don't worry about the rest. Like,
absolutely.
I don't know
And
if
you
that's
don't
controversial, but it was on the Twitterverse.
I know. I was seeing a lot of that, and I don't know. I feel that the NFL Network merger would have more of an effect than an individually contract. You know, I mean, they're bringing in a lot more talent to basically backfill what was those ESPN talent at the time. There's a lot of NFL Network talent coming over. I mean, Ian Rappaport came over, notably. Like, there's a lot of people that are now, I guess, backfilling those roles who have been established at NFL Network. And I think that's just kind of like what happens. No, like when companies merge, you can't keep both full staffs, you know?
I totally agree. People are going to lose their jobs, but like what ESPN is like, and this is even me and you talking about McAfee for like a bet he plays. I think he's very honest, and I think that'll take us to our next topic here, Mike. Let's stay with the betting. Let's stay with the betting. So we have two sides of the WNBA saga. We have Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese with a saga that I've never encountered.
It's ridiculous.
So we talk about on the show things about betting or controversies where leagues sweep it under the rugs. And, you know, I don't know, I talk about it in my class a fair amount, like Major League Baseball, NHL, NFL, NBA. They know, they've been around the block on controversies. They know how to sweep things under the rug. We'll do this really quick, Mike. The Kawhi Leonard saga, this thing happened like 9 months ago. The NBA has this report that's coming out that like somehow the Kawhi saga might be pushed until 2027. Like, this is the NBA's model, and we'll get back to WM in a minute. Delay. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see here. Let's kick this out until nobody cares about it. So, Mike, we had something bizarre happen in the WNBA. Okay. And ask me, Mike, how I know about this bizarre thing that happened in the WNBA.
Yeah. How would you see that? Did someone post it?
Yeah, the WNBA's official social media account tweeted this bizarre video of Paige Bueckers and Angel Reese throwing up $400 cash, and they're talking about a wager they placed on a game they were playing in. And I'm like, I'm not sure if this is a parody or if this is a joke. It's a really bad joke. No one's laughing. This definitely seems like something real. So, Mike, I seem to think this was a very real bet between the two of them, that some knucklehead at WNBA HQ thought it would be controversial, thought it would get engagement. And Mike, that it did. It did get engagement for the wrong reasons, but it did get engagement.
This is the problem with putting clout over sense and logic. Like, what are you doing? This is by far, to me, one of the worst things in the social media era of the WNBA. Let's say, let's put it in that bracket at least. It's how do you as players post that? You want to go make those wagers. I am sure athletes make those wagers all day, every day since the beginning of time. But you can't be posting it. Then the WNBA, 2 weeks after FanDuel and the MLB got flack for Bryce Harper's video for a gambling addict, basically. And you're going to tell me that the WNBA here is posting a video of their own players violating Article 14 of the CBA. Like, we're here going through the NBA probe investigation. Everything is out there, right? Jonte Porter, gone. Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier in a massive scandal. We just talked about how many other betting scandals over the last 2, 3, 4 months. Like, this is unbelievable to me. And while you're not going to get rid of, 2 of your probably top 5 to 10 stars in the league, especially revenue generating, they might be 2 and 3 or 1 and 2, who knows? But unbelievable to post it and then delete it and really basically have nothing to say per usual. We had this topic, last week? What is the commissioner going to do? What is Kathy going to do? And since then, she's actually done not well with the media. And this, to me, is like, you have to do something about this.
I questioned, like, after we had that last week, and we went through, like, and I guess we're getting there, but like the handling of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, whatever way you want to dice it, I just think the WNBA has kind of fumbled the bag, so to speak. And now you have 2 players that, like, I don't know, like maybe that's your next in line, right? Like Angel Reese, it gets a lot of headlines. I don't know if it necessarily classifies her as like a superstar, but like she gets a lot of headlines. I think Angel Reese does a lot of the right things in terms of like leaning into the controversy sometimes, like when she trademarked me bounds. And I think she's like, I always find that funny. She's like leading the league in like offensive rebounds, but like majority of them are her own missed shots, which I just think is hilarious. But so we didn't talk about it in the show when we did the kind of topic last week, but Paige Bueckers is, another generational talent. Like she's, I don't know, she has a lot of the spotlight. And when the WNBA, when her ex significant other, Mike, is it Azifud?
Correct. Yeah.
when she comes into the league, like there were questions being asked of Azzy Fudd, like about Bueckers, and then like the WNBA like wouldn't allow those questions. So it's like, if you were going to be treated as a professional league with everybody else, right? Like, you can't post videos of your star players betting on games. Like that's a clown show. And the number two, if you get asked hard questions or just ask questions about people's lives, like exes, significant others, like, even Sophie Cunningham's, what is, albeit a pretty controversial stance, and we'll talk about it momentarily, like you can't run from that. Like you just have to embrace controversy and you have to get there. Like you can't create the story by posting the betting, right? Or like to create the story by not letting, and not wanting to talk about Caitlin Clark. We'll talk about it in a minute, but like, I just think the WNBA continues to fall all over itself for all of the wrong reasons. And it's like, I want to get behind the sport. I have two girls at home. I really want to get behind it. Like they're expanding. They're clearly like making some right moves, but in the PR sphere, like I think it's just miss after miss after miss.
No, I can't agree with you more. It's unfortunate, and I hope that, yeah, for every sake, just to improve and move forward with this. Even if we were just quote unquote criticizing the way that the NBA handles things, but this is honestly egregiously worse. And yeah, I hope to see much improvement moving forward. Just because, yeah, you want to love the sport. It's grown so much, and the expansion is very cool. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's controversy everywhere with the WNBA since, basically the last 5 years.
I'm with you. Okay, so let's do the other part of this, Mike, and we don't have to spend too long on it. But so we talked last week about Sophie Cunningham coming out against trans athletes playing in women's sports. So I don't know if this is confirmed, but we have two young girls sitting on the sidelines of the Seattle Storm game, holding up a sign, basically like, "We support you, Sophie Cunningham." And Mike, I'll let you explain the comment. I have some thoughts on it, but Mike, maybe for those that didn't hear, maybe you have the comment, you have the owner's position.
Yeah, Fever Storm game, of course, Fever somehow available and involved, but the Storm co-owner Celeste Keaton immediately allegedly cursed at two teenage Cunningham supporters that, yes, did have signs courtside. One of them left in tears, and it just did not go well for the Seattle Storm owner. So apparently the Storm apologized, off official channels, and the WNBA fined and suspended Keaton, which is actually factual for the team's next 5 home games. So, yeah, it's interesting where on one hand there's somewhat of a quote unquote lack of authority and, fine and suspension for the betting, where on this side, it's, I think, pretty rare to see a league suspend or do anything with an owner, especially in that capacity. It's obviously very rare as well that speech like that, isn't really, I guess, common for owners to be going down to the court and talking like that to fans. But typically, what's weird with this, to me at least, is that there's like provisions and bylaws in the WNBA's CBA and their league constitution essentially, but here it's weird because like Cunningham's comments are basically protected, but where here, like, the CBA allegedly doesn't cover Keaton's speech, so I guess they would consider this the personal conduct policy, conduct detrimental. Love to throw it out there when we can, but we'll see. 5 home games is decently significant, so yeah, suspending an owner.
Yeah, so I have won't curse here, but the excerpts, these are, I guess, secondhand, but the fact that the WM is issuing discipline, you can read into that whether these are confirmed or not. And this was like a man on the street, or I guess woman on the street interview with the fans. Allegedly, Keaton said, "You are effing insane. How dare you come in here and pull this shit?" Right? Like, so an owner can't be berating fans like that, in that type of manner. I guess maybe I've seen James Dolan do kick people out of his stadium, but it's like James Dolan is a different beast than like a WNBA owner, and this is definitely a third. I would say a third real issue, but it's getting closer there. Here's my question, Mike. Now, if the owner has an issue with that, I hear all the time where stadiums will confiscate fan signs. I see that all the time. Um, I I certainly think that sign was put up to make a statement and to draw attention to it. So, rather than having the owner go up and make that type of statement, just have some security guard go up and just take the sign away, right? Like it's a
Easy.
private setting. Like that's much easier. And like just surprised that was allowed to happen. Like I don't know what the owner gained from saying that, but I see. I do think the WNBA handled this in some sense the right way. I don't think the situation was handled right, because why is that sign allowed to be that the owner has an issue with it? And like you're just, I guess, I mean, I don't know anything about this owner from before this incident, but apparently she was baited into saying something. So, yeah, we talked on the last episode about Sophie Cunningham, and Sophie put out a statement in light of what happened at the game, essentially that she loves everybody, but she wants to protect her sport is the gist of what she said. So, in this day and age, if you're going to say something, you got to stand by it. So, like, I don't know in the WNBA. I think I do know this. I don't know if anybody has ever tried to play the role of Sophie Cunningham. Like, I can't think of a comparison to her. And we'll do some what to watch for at the end of this. Like, they have on the one hand such a popular figure, but on the other hand, just like the base, a lot of the people that support the WNBA don't share the same views as Sophie Cunningham. Clearly, the owner of the Seattle Storm does not feel that way. So they have what we would say is a very polarizing figure who, if you leaned into Sophie, she definitely is now reaching popularity levels outside of the WNBA. But let's see if the WNBA takes that bait. Caitlin Clark obviously is there as well. They're on the same team. So all of a sudden, the Indiana Fever have a lot of attention being played to it by, we'll say, political outlets all across our country. So that's an interesting one to watch for as we see it played out. The Indiana Fever, meanwhile, are playing fantastic. So I can't think of a comp to this, Mike. I just, even in the NBA, I can't think of a comp. Maybe like if you put Sophie Cunningham in like the Dennis Rodman role, but like, I don't know. I'm curious to see it play out. Let's see what the WNBA does. I think there was some talk about like, would there be discipline for Sophie for saying that? But I don't think you can say that. Like, I don't think you can. But
no, I don't either. I mean, we've seen it across the NFL and NHL, I feel like, pretty substantially, at least politically, and especially with views similar to that. And there hasn't been any sort of like discipline or, I think, giant backlash. Obviously, a very different fan base, like you had mentioned. But yeah, I don't see Sophie getting handed with any discipline here. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out because, yeah, Indiana, a lot of controversy.
Speaking of discipline, let us move over to 3 criminal incidents that are occurring in the NFL. So, Mike, where were you when you saw the Tony Romo news?
Oh my goodness. I was actually sitting on my couch cracking up because it's one of my favorite videos of the year, I think now. Wow.
I just, you don't want to wish ill upon anybody. I just think that like people are so creative, like with these memes that are coming out of this. Somebody during his stop, they said like, have you experienced any recent head trauma? And Tony like stopped to think for a second, and like these NFL editors put in like all of his concussions over the course of his career. It's just like, it was just very good. And then the story came out, Mike, you and I were talking about before we started to record. He allegedly told police, I'm on the way to my grandparents' house, my grandma and grandpa's house. And then someone did a public record search. I believe this was confirmed by Yahoo Sports, that public records reveal that Tony Romo does not have any alive grandparents. So, in 2026, Mike, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for the memes that are coming.
Yeah, every single time. And those edits are probably the most common now. So if you pause for a second or do anything, they're going to throw, especially if you're a former player. And Tony took a lot of hits. I got to say, Romo was a tough guy in there.
So, Mike, when I was looking into this before, it's an OWI. So in New York, you and I would like view something like this being akin to DUI or DWI, some form of criminal violation. My understanding in Wisconsin is that it's this operating while intoxicated, OWI, a first time offense, is a civil traffic infraction, not necessarily a criminal charge. So there's no like jail time unless there's some aggravating factor. So it's pretty standard fines, but obviously license revocation, just not a criminal charge, which should come with jail time. So misdemeanor obviously is up to a year in jail. At least we're in New York, and felony is above that. This is less than that. So I bring that up in this context. We had a sense that Mark Sanchez was never going to go into the booth again because he was charged with a felony. Felony is the most serious criminal charge you get. Charged obviously different degrees of felony. This isn't even a criminal charge in Wisconsin. So Mike, if you're taking bets at the Conduct Detrimental Resorts World and Casino, is Tony Romo going to be covering another NFL game this year, Mike? Odds?
Hey, Jim.
Minus 100,000.
Yeah, I would say he's going to be in week 1.
Yeah, I think so too. Irrespective of the lie about dead grandparents and the video going viral, I don't. We talked about Dustin Poirier. I'm not seeing the backlash. We've got to cover it because it is what it is, criminal offense. If anyone's curious, Tony Romo is going to be back in the booth. 100% agree. Mike, this one's a little bit different. Kyle Shanahan. Okay, Mike, do you know when this traffic accident actually occurred versus when it was reported? That's the big controversy here.
So it happened on the 14th, but came out 11 days later on the 25th, this past Saturday. So yeah, that's a little weird. What do you think?
Well, it's weird in this day and age that I think as I understood it, the 49ers issued a statement, but like ESPN had a story keyed up right afterwards. So it seemed like ESPN had this information, was waiting for it to come out, and like they were kind of waiting for the green light from the organization. That's at least my read on it.
Yeah, and it was weird because, they're sharing, obviously the big news today is the fact that he was not charged in the situation, even though he himself, and like you had said, like the 49ers, he came out stating that he caused it. But the Alto PD actually logged it that the other driver was at fault. So now, due to that quote unquote clerical error, Shanahan came out and, was basically using his phone, caused a crash at 20 miles per hour, very not speeding. It was very close to his home, but he wasn't cited despite actually coming out and basically saying he was guilty doing it and using his phone. So weird.
I mean, the accident's pretty severe. I mean, he had a head-on collision with a 21-year-old woman. He almost lost his eye, reportedly needed 40 stitches over his right eye. Broken nose, broken ribs, broken hand. I mean, it's a really serious accident. Now you could tell me, Mike, this is just the nature of the beast. Like, there's no deaths as a result of this, right? Like Shanahan's not dead. The other woman, not a fatal accident. The same exact thing, right? You drop your phone, you're looking for it, and you get into a head-on collision with somebody. Like, the bad part has already been done, right? Like, then you're just kind of at the whim of whatever happens to the other vehicle. It's not quite eggshell plaintiff, but like an eggshell plaintiff. Eggshell plaintiff doesn't come up that much in life, but it's like you take your quote unquote victim as you find them. God forbid this woman passed away. Like, Shanahan might not coach again. Like Henry Ruggs, years ago, we did a podcast, like got into a crazy accident. This woman got trapped in her car and basically got whatever trigger warnings people need here, like got trapped in her car and the car got lit on fire. If the woman had got out of the car with her dog, I remember the dog was in the car. Like, I don't know, maybe Henry Ruggs is still playing NFL football, and that doesn't excuse the act that Ruggs did or that Shanahan did. But sometimes just the nature of the beast, like the consequences of your actions depend on the actual gravity and the harm that's caused. So I'm surprised that Shanahan is getting away with absolutely nothing. Like that doesn't seem like the right result, clerical error or not, especially if he's taking blame for what happened. Like, are we rooting for Shanahan to go to jail or this? Like, no, obviously we're not. Just it doesn't seem to be a just result just because nobody got hurt. Like, Tiger Woods went to jail. Tiger Woods got in trouble, in a one-car accident that happened, fairly recently. So I'm not sure, I mean, the crash happened in Palo Alto. Mike, do we think if the crash happened in a different state, there might be a different handling of this? Is that
That's my question,
yeah
Is
bullshit?
there a question
Bullshit.
on the cop going to jail maybe or some enforcement there? I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I don't like. I kind of knew the answer as I was looking at it live. Like we do this class, and I've talked about it on the podcast. Like my each year I do a Torts Illustrated class, and like for my students, it's like, is this thing a crime or is this part of the game? And it's like usually when it should be a crime, and like no one's charged with the crime. Like the famous Myles Garrett incident was like the game happened in Cleveland when he hit Mason Rudolph over the head. If that game had occurred in Pittsburgh, same exact offense, like probably getting criminally charged. Or like alternatively, if Mason Rudolph like didn't take it like a champ and like, but if he actually fell to the ground, like the act of hitting someone over the head with a helmet is the bad act. Like what happens to the person on the other end? Like, and if you take a swing at someone, right? Just like if you take a gun and you fired at someone and you miss, like that's still the attempt. So I'm very surprised and a little bit disappointed that was the handling of this. Now, that's not to say that the NFL isn't going to do something with respect to Shanahan, but we're still before the season. You could give him like a proverbial slap on the wrist, make him miss a preseason game or something stupid. But like, I think the NFL should really look into this. I mean, you don't want to set that standard. Like, someone's life could be lost if you're not for distracted driving. And you have a head-on collision with somebody. This is a pretty serious accident.
No, I agree, but you think they do? I mean, I don't think they do. Shanahan, legacy family, Kyle Shanahan too. Like, he's really never had any controversy like this, and definitely one of the most beloved coaches, at least media wise and PR wise. So I don't know. I don't think they do much from this. And like we had mentioned with the NBA, just kind of sweep it under the rug.
Unfortunately, I think you're probably right. That's not to say that they should do that, but I mean, like the nature of this accident is such that like there should be some discipline. You do not want to set that standard of like there's no discipline, even if it's something. But the fact that there was no criminal charge here, I think the NFL again, as we talk about sweeping, like this thing might just disappear.
Yeah,
Like,
how
oh
many
yeah,
days
Shanahan
though?
almost lost his eye, and then like okay,
That's all we're getting. Like, I mean, it's been how many? It's been almost the full month, and nothing has happened discipline wise. So maybe they're waiting for him to recover. I don't know, but we'll see.
Speaking of this, more developing story, Mike, do you want to just give what's going on with Eric Bieniemy, his family, the ongoing criminal case that's unfolded over the last 24 hours?
Yeah, major story, coming out of the Bieniemy household. Unfortunately, his wife was shot multiple times at the family's Virginia home on this past Sunday, and allegedly it was done by their son Elijah Zion Bieniemy, who's 27. His mother's 57, Mia or Maya. But yes, so Elijah was actually arrested, and he's been charged with malicious wounding and firearm offenses, and he's held without bond right now. As this podcast will be coming out, this on the 31st, he does have his court date tomorrow/today, and we'll see. I mean, Eric did leave the Chiefs training camp, obviously, to be with his family, and thankfully his wife is out of the ICU and improving, and thankfully there was no death and hopefully no severe long-term, situation. But we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, that's a significant, thing happening to one of the top, I guess, I feel like assistant coaches across the league, and always a hot button topic every time there's a vacancy for coaching. So possibly future head coach at some point. So yeah, very significant story coming out of the Chiefs again, and yeah, hopefully she recovers well, and we'll see. It's a family criminal matter, obviously, so not too much on the football side, but yeah, crazy thing to come out of the Chiefs off season right now before the season.
Yeah, this would be the second. Well, not related, but like we didn't cover the show, but like this Rob Reiner incident that occurred 7 months ago, right at the end of 2025. Son accused and obviously pleading not guilty to murdering his parents, but like crazy charge. The fact that that's happening in two high profile cases, in the sports entertainment realm. And then Mike, not that long ago, do you remember Andy Reid's son when he got into the DUI with the that young girl?
Oh no.
Yeah, Britt Reid is Andy Reid's son, got into an accident leaving the Kansas City Chiefs facility. and got into a really serious accident involving like a little girl. And it's like serious accident, alcohol is allegedly involved. But there was a very serious accident that happened to a little girl. And like Britt Reed's not going to coach again in the NFL. And it's like these things happen. So you have to somewhat find the precedent. I don't know. Does it matter that it's a 21-year-old? What if the 21-year-old had an infant in the car? Right? Like, but in any event, going back to what's happening with Bieniemy, we'll continue to follow it. It's pretty tragic. And obviously Bieniemy is one of the architects of the Kansas City Chiefs offense with Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid. So it's an absolute tragedy. We're going to continue to follow it, but I'm not. I don't think it's going to have any on-field ramifications other than having a really big impact in that locker room. Bieniemy's been around the franchise for years, so an absolute tragedy. So condolences out to the Bieniemy family. Okay, Mike. Let's wrap this one up. Let's do two. I want you to cover your college-related what to watch for, and I'll do the non-college one. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, big story coming out of Stanford football, actually, Andrew Luck's alma mater. But Stanford football players are now here launching the first team level fraternity chapter of the College Football Players Association, which is also pretty much brand new. I mean, it's only 5 years old. Basically, what will effectively, hopefully, from their view, be the Players Association for all of college football. Of course, here the players aren't looking to quote unquote be employees in this specific situation, but it's more focusing on the building blocks for building out a CBA, because where I think the union battle is a separate conversation and something that doesn't have to be done, but is very much being focused on by some other teams, and a lot of the athlete unionization pushes from like Northwestern almost over a decade ago. We talked about Dartmouth, and USC relatively recently. So I don't think the employment side here is the big story, but I think this is a huge step forward towards eventual collective bargaining, because they're planning to roll out chapters at other Power 4 conference programs, and Stanford is humongous. Like, this isn't a minor program. Even with respect to a Northwestern or Dartmouth, like Stanford has historically been a much larger program. So apparently, even Andrew Luck, I mentioned him before, we're aware. He was aware of the situation. So as well as the head coach, Tavita Pritchard, and so they apparently took a neutral stance on this. I think it'll be interesting to see, if anything materializes during the season. We are approaching, football season. So there's a lot still to be done during the off season, but significant news coming out of Stanford. I mean, a labor fraternity is pretty, I think actually forming it is a big step forward.
So I think it's a big one, and we'll follow it. When I first saw the news, I got excited that it was the union, but the fact that they're making that announcement, and it's very clear that that's the first step to getting there, definitely worth watching for. Okay, there are some developments, just people don't think we're avoiding it, on the legislative hill on the federal side. I know Ted Cruz has been tweeting about it. I know our friend Amanda Krisovich has been tweeting about it. Joined on Paul Feinbaum today. Maybe we'll get Amanda on soon. I just don't think there's value covering these laws passing until they actually get there. There's just so much dysfunction to Capitol Hill right now, and we can keep getting our hopes up, but like I for the life of me cannot cover another federal bill that doesn't pass. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. In any event, speaking of things that happened in the middle of the night, which did not expect to happen. So Jake Paul is the kind of main operator behind MVP Promotions, which ran its first MMA event with Ronda Rousey at the top of the helm, Francis Ngannou, but they're mainly known for boxing events. Mike, middle of the night, we have MVP merging with the PFL. I guess we'll call the PFL and MVP in some way, shape, or form were the number 2 and number 3 MMA promotions, despite MVP just running their first ever MMA promotion. We have a big merger between those two. The reason there's some significance here, in addition to just helping the MMA space and helping fighters and all that fun stuff, the UFC is currently embroiled in a series of monopoly and monopsony cases, where they're being accused of having too much market dominance over the MMA space. And now all of a sudden, you have like, let's say you have McDonald's, right? And McDonald's is the main power. Like you have Burger King and Wendy's merging together. I have to think that this is like, as much as the UFC is probably annoyed that these two competitors might compete with them on a grand scale, from a legal perspective, it's going to be very helpful for those cases. Obviously those cases date back a couple of years, but moving forward, their like exposure in terms of being a having market dominance, they're going to have this larger entity to point to that has deals with Netflix, that has deals with ESPN, and this does look like a real competitor. So if you're a fight fan, I Mike, I almost went to the PFL card. There's one scheduled. We're recording this on Thursday, July 30th. There's one scheduled for tomorrow. Probably could have got tickets through work. It's at the UBS Center. It's going to be the last card under the PFL banner, and then they're going to move everything under the MVP banner. So it's a pretty big move, Mike. And especially if you're a fight fan, you're a boxing fan, like MVP has had deals with Netflix. And Netflix, say what you want, other than the UFC's like White House card, like no one does numbers like the Netflix card. This is a very big move for combat sports, for both boxing and MMA, like a massive, massive news.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think it will introduce a whole, subsection of fans to MMA, that they had gotten through maybe like a Paul Tyson fight, a Rusty Carano fight, like you mentioned on Netflix. I think MVP has brought a lot of newer fans to, I think, martial arts as a whole. So I think it's a huge win across the board, legally, just for the whole industry.
I'm with you, Mike. I think it's very big. So I hadn't heard it. Maybe there was some rumblings. I'm usually pretty good at following these news. Did not hear anything, and here we are. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. Mike, out of curiosity, if I had invited you to go to this PFL card tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the UBS Arena, would you have gone to that?
100%.
100%.
4 p.m. Yeah, 100%.
I still can go to this thing.
Hey, you keep me posted.
My daughter's having her first sleepover tomorrow, so I have the night off. I can do whatever I want. And I told my wife I was thinking of going this. She's like, "You're going to go to a PFL card. That's not even the UFC. That's the PFL card. You're going to go at the UBS Arena." Like, and I'm like, when you put it that way, but Mike, I didn't know you'd be interested. Now it's well, you keep saying 100. I've now gone from 0% going to no longer 0.
Hey,
I'm not at 100.
You got my number.
I'm not quite at 50.
Hey, I'll be there if you got it.
We'll talk offline. But that being said, Mike, as we put this in the books, I have a weird bet for you. We talk about the WNBA a lot. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I have a good bet for you. I have one.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah, please.
It's not some massive number. I just like to pick winners, Mike. That's all I like to do.
That's what we do, right?
I was not familiar with the game of one Alyssa Thomas. Are you familiar with Alyssa Thomas?
Of course, yeah.
Of course. I have no idea who Alyssa Thomas is.
Really?
Yeah. Did you just do the Alyssa Thomas move? Is that what that was?
Yeah, she punched Caitlin recently.
That's who punched Caitlin? That punched her in the neck?
Yeah, the one that punched her in the throat or whatever. Yeah, that was Alyssa Thomas.
This makes this bet even better, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
So I like to peruse the futures lines. Okay, I always like to just have a sense who's leading the league. I do this in all sports, in homers, RBIs, assists. So it's obviously the WNBA All-Star break, and Mike, you and I famously 3 years ago, we made a bet. Will Caitlin Clark lead the WNBA in 3-pointers? And we hit it. We hit it for our listeners. It was like 6-1. It was a nice bet. I'm looking, and I see this Alyssa Thomas is leading the WNBA in assists per game, and she's second to Caitlin Clark. Now, I don't know who Alyssa Thomas is. I do dabble in the arts WNBA. I'm not familiar with her. Looked her up. Long, illustrious career, multiple-time All-Star. She's got a lot of assists. She's had bigger numbers. I think she had 9.9, 9.3 last year. She's got a lot of assists. She's good at dishing the rock. Mike, number 2 in the assist per game race is, who do you think, Mike?
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark. The public is juicing up Caitlin Clark. Alyssa Thomas has like a half a game lead in the assist category, and that's a big number. And I think Alyssa Thomas, this is what she has. She has the assist game. Caitlin Clark is focusing on scoring 45 points a game and getting triple doubles. Alyssa Thomas can score the rock, but she's a distributor. Mike, I place a very irresponsible bet on Alyssa Thomas to lead the WNBA in assists per game. You could call me a degenerate. I'm just out here supporting women's sport. Minus 110 was the bet. It's not a very juiced bet like I gave on Europe to win the World Cup. It's Alyssa Thomas. I sometimes we try to find the public bets. And Mike, this is it. Alyssa Thomas. I'm going to be watching the Phoenix Mercury games. I'm going to be watching the Fever games. Alyssa Thomas to lead the WNBA in assists per game. Some people go to other podcasts for NFL bets. You guys come for the WNBA futures bets. Okay, that's what it is. That's why you're here.
No, I like that. Honestly, no, they talking about degeneracy. I think that's one of the more sane ones that we've had on here.
Sure.
In the last, compared to McGregor maybe, but yeah,
sure
it'll be good. Mercury aren't great, but she is.
Okay, Mike, perfect. Let's end it here. Appreciate you coming on, facing abnormal sickness and unhealthy conditions. You came here, Mike. So I'm just kidding. You're healthy. You're back to 100%.
Yeah, I'm feeling good now.
Michael Krevchenko flu game is over. He's back to full health. Appreciate you, Mike, and appreciate all of you for tuning in each and every week. Big congratulations to our bar takers. The New York bar was July 28th, 2 days ago. Shout out to my students. I got a lot of texts. And shout out to Themis Bar Review for being the top bar prep company in the entire galaxy. Some of you have reached out for a Themis referral code. I believe our last one expired. So if you still want one, hit me up. I will get it for you. Okay. Mike, anything else, or can we put this episode in the books?
Just condolences to our Washington State bar takers who had it canceled completely because of Wi-Fi and technical issues. So our Washington, listeners and contributors, our condolences, and I hope that gets figured out ASAP.
That's rough. Shout out to Washington State. And shout out to DocuSign for being down today exactly when I needed you at 3:59. You're the worst. Get back online. Okay. That'll do it for us here at Conduct Detrimental. We will see you next time on another episode of the Sports Law Podcast, Conduct Detrimental.